create the heavens and the earth. That's a broad statement as a different level of understanding. We're not talking about a consecutive thing that just happened. We're not talking, as we go from verse to verse, it's not a consecutive unfoldment.
Right.
You're talking about eons of time with layered information and information that's coming at a later time. The whole scripture, the whole Bible, however we look at it, it's a lot of redactations. So it's a compilations of many stories.
Right.
If you go into the older creation story, which is the Sumerian text,
right.
Sumerian tablets, the Enuma Elish, it talks about a cataclysm or the creations of the heavenly bodies and how they got into their positions. So it's saying the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Right, and the spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. I'm not trying to get into some of this because it gets. But the point is that I am proposing that these Elohim are not. People think they're spiritual beings, and I would say yes, once upon a time. But in this story, we're not talking about a spiritual, non-physical, non-tangible beings. We're talking about people.
Right.
I'm gonna keep it that simple. We're talking about people from wherever they come from.
Right. Now, and with that being said,
Continue.
They do have a spirit.
Yes.
So that spirit has to come from somewhere.
It comes from the source.
From the source.
Right.
So if it comes from the source, that means they are God.
Right.
Right? So that's what we're trying to get to, that they are gods. And it wasn't wrong for the people to call them gods.
No, it was not.
Now, worshiping is something totally different. Now, to me, like I said, yo, if that's what they want to do, let them do it. I don't have a problem with what people do.
All right, let me give some. I don't have the book. I give more references because it's gonna be a lot of information that's coming.
Yeah.
That if you look at psychic Edgar Casey, he talks about certain things with Atlantis and Lemuria.
Right.
Ruth Montgomery. And I'm going to say these names again. Edgar Casey. He talks about times before what we have is written histories, Atlantis, Lemuria, which talks about these beings. Again, the Mahabharata. A lot of Indian. When I say Indian, I'm not talking about Native American. I'm talking about the East India.
Yeah, right.
They know the whole Hindu people or religion or way of life understands that they were beings that came. The earth itself has had human beings,
right,
which are sons of the source, creations of the source.
Exactly.
With young souls.
Right.
And these beings came from other places. And they mixed in with the humans, with their DNA.
Right. Exactly.
So you have what we consider Elohim on earth,
right,
or sparks of life or souls that manifested human bodies,
right,
here on earth.
Right.
Then you had beings that came from other places,
right,
that came and tampered with the human genetic or genome or so on and so forth.
Right.
So what happens is when you get into understandings of, this is Destiny of Souls, but this is a book by Dr. Michael Newton. And again, this is Destiny of Souls, but I'm referencing Journey of Souls because I didn't get a chance to go look for the book. That particular book I read years ago, and it talks about like in between life and death, reincarnation, and so on and so forth. You could also look into Dolores Cannon. You could check her out on YouTube. Some of her videos are up, but I have many of her books. I read these years ago, and it actually gets into spiritual beings, spirit guides, ascended masters, things of that nature, teachers, guides, and whatever that actually are here with you right now as you're watching this. There's angelic beings that's watching over you and your spiritual support team, SST as we like to call it. And what happens is as these beings tamper or for the divine plan They did whatever they did. We keep it simple because we'll discuss this in other podcasts. It's almost like once you put your hand to the plow, you have to see it through to the end.
Right.
So what these beings did is, as they created vehicles for souls to incarnate in, modified humans, or what became Homo sapiens sapien,
Right.
they also started to incarnate in these bodies. So we are them and they are us.
Right.
And I need to definitely see questions.
Which makes all of us one.
Right.
One whole consciousness being. It's almost like saying, if you worshiping anything outside of yourself in a second or a third person, I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't do that. I worship what's in me, what comes from me.
So, and we're gonna have to unwrap that.
Right.
So what you're saying is that somewhere along the line, you have divine beings,
Right,
that are indigenous to some cases, because that's a whole story behind that. That's indigenous to the planet, what we call Earth today. That they had divine guidance
right,
on certain levels, and some outside forces came and intervened. We'll say that, to be nice, we'll say that intervened, because just like us, they have love, light, and negative aspects, and so on and so forth. They intervene in human evolution,
right,
and we started to look at these beings at different points in history as something to be worshipped,
right.
when we already inherently had our own divine guidance system
already given
to us by the source of all.
Exactly.
Continue.
Exactly. So when you're worshiping or saying or praying, let me say praying to a second or third party being or something outside of yourself, because I've heard this been said. When I'm talking to someone, they say, no, God is not, he's separate from his creation.
Right.
I would disagree, but I see what you're saying,
Right.
because that's how you've been taught to
Right.
look at whatever you're looking at.
Right.
I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
No. The only thing that exists is the creator.
Right.
That's it. It's love. That's it. That's the only thing that exists. So it cannot be separate from what it already is. But I get what you're saying.
Right.
And I would probably agree with the guy, but he probably ain't going to agree with me.
Of course not.
I agree, bro. But I worship what develops inside me. I pray to what's inside that triggers that spark,
The connection.
that connection, that thing that makes you go out and do things or do certain things.
Right.
That's what, and which I would say that's that spark, or that's that light that you should be intertwined with, growing with, moving with, speaking with.
Right.
Not the ego.
Right. Which is the lower self, based on your sensual pleasures, your hearing, seeing, feeling, touching, tasting.
Exactly.
Right.
But what you need
to navigate this physical realm
through here,
right?
Because you're gonna need it,
which projects outward.
Right.
Those senses deal with the things that's projecting away from you.
Right.
And the sense that you're talking about, or the level of consciousness you're talking about, is within. It's going within to connect with that which is greater than this physical plane.
Exactly.
And we spoke about it 2 weeks ago, and this is what I would call the Christ.
Right.
The Christ consciousness.
Exactly.
The Atman, if you're into the Hebrew understandings. The one.
Right.
The one is manifested in the many.
Exactly.
It's the and to paint the picture for the audience, it's the concept of the ocean, right? And as a wave develops, it starts cresting in the bubbles and everything at that.
Right.
Imagine that one wave before it crashes back into the ocean. In that moment or instance, it's having a whole experience as that unique developed wave.
Right.
And it's in that moment, it's individualized as that wave.
Right.
And it has that experiences. Now, of course, it's milliseconds or moments.
Right.
But if we slow that down, it could seem like a lifetime for that wave.
Exactly.
If we're going to put expression on the wave. But once it crashes back into that ocean,
right.
all of that experiences now goes into the vast oneness of the wave.
Right.
But was the wave ever separate from the ocean?
Right. Never.
And what's happened to us as human beings is we identify things have happened for eons of time, eons and eons of time, that causes our minds, or the ego has taken over to a form which is reinforced in our religious institutions, which is reinforced, religious institutions, our governments, and our family members, which makes us feel like I got to look. I have to go to a place. I have to go to a person. I have to do, a person, places, and things dictates my closeness with the source.
With the source. Exactly.
Not right.
Which is not.
Which is not. But it can be.
It can
if
be,
you take your sovereignty
and put it somewhere
else.
Exactly. So, but your sovereignty is already within.
It's always.
I want to touch on what you were saying about that wave, because that wave, even though it's that one wave, but it's many waves in the ocean.
Yes.
And even in the wave, guess what? There's trickles of drops that comes forth from that wave.
Right.
So they are individualized also, but it's never set itself out from the ocean itself.
Right.
It's always been the ocean.
Right.
We've always been God. I'm gonna try to break it down like what it was said to me one time. It was God became man, so man could understand that he was God.
Right.
That's how it was broken down to me.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I get that. Now, if I was one of the first ones to tell you, quick, you couldn't come to me and tell me I'm God. What? Bro, you crazy.
Right.
But until I started reading other stuff and coming back to scriptures and stuff, and I was like, hold up, it's right there. And then you listening to some other people, that's how they explain it. It's like, and I'm gonna give you another one, like the TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
The TV screen, let's say the TV screen is God.
Okay.
Everything comes inside the TV screen, but the TV screen is never affected by what's on the screen.
Got it.
But it is the screen.
But it is the screen. So you're saying all the different stations, all the different channels, all the different whatever is projected onto the screen.
Exactly.
But the screen still remains the screen.
It still remains the screen.
And each show, and it's funny because every person that's watching it identifies with whatever it is that they're into on the show.
Exactly.
I don't watch sports, but somebody might be, the Cowboys and whatever, and they go crazy about, the season and so on and so forth. I got to get home to watch
the game,
or I got to get home and watch my favorite shows on whatever it is. So even in that, you can see how a person's mind connects to these individualized shows and these individualized things.
Right.
And somebody will say, well, I like to watch the news. Man, how you sit there and watch the news every night at the same time?
Right.
That's the time the game's on. And both persons could look at each other like, man, how you don't want to know about world events?
Right. How can you watch sports? Sports take you away from the news. Is it? Or is all of it taking you away from looking within?
That's interesting.
Because you're looking outwardly.
You're looking outwardly.
For whatever it is that captivates you.
Right.
Instead of looking within. Whatever captivates you should be within.
So why do you think that we're so disconnected? A lot of us as human beings, as people, we're so disconnected from the source to where we have to go to a person.
Right.
Which I'm not saying any of these things are bad. I'm not saying all this means it's ultimate disconnection, but I'm saying we have to go to a person. We have to go to a place. We might have to, some people, they idolize or look at things.
Right.
So what is it? What do you think happened to get us to a place to where our understanding is so external?
I would say I think a lot plays into it, right? As we understand, certain things you got to go through because you chose to go through certain things.
Right.